All right, ladies and gents, last time we left off here looking at Teddy Roosevelt and the United States involvement in Latin America. Now, there's been a long debate whether if the United States is imperial or not. Definitely not colonial, simply because of how they take possessions. Well, I guess that's debatable too. But I think if you look at this idea of imperialism as a competition, really on a global scale, it's hard to deny the United States' involvement, especially in Southeast Asia and Latin America. We'll get into more of that later. But again, Teddy Roosevelt, speak quietly and carry a big stick. Got a big stick, and he's walking around Latin America. Okay, now one thing you have to understand, especially as we move and look at the onset of World War I and the tensions that are caused by that, colonies and this idea of empire becomes very much part of Britain, France, different countries' national identities. Okay, it becomes very nationalistic. There's an economic benefit for sure when you're looking at resources. At the same time, these countries have an intense sense of pride that goes along with it. They don't want to lose a colony to the British. If you're French, you want to be able to compete. You want to have, I guess you want more candy at Halloween than your brother, if you kind of look at it that way. Okay? So just keep that in mind. It's also economic. In addition to that, it's very, very much an idea of nationalism and national pride. Okay? So we haven't talked about the Industrial Revolution. We'll do that next, but that's the era, and most of you guys remember this, of an increased mechanization and just a changing of the workforce, where you're in factories and cities grow and all that stuff. You have a way to mass produce things much, much more efficiently than you could before. And countries use this, the idea of mechanization and the idea of the Industrial Revolution, as a justification that they were superior to others. So again, it feeds into the idea of the white man's burden and so forth, where we can make these things. We are a superior population in terms of intellect, in terms of ambition, all that stuff, and this is the proof. Okay, so really what you have is the Industrial Revolution and the addition of all those new ways to manufacture things really breeds a distinct sense of racism, where Europeans are better than those they colonize, be it in Southeast Asia, be it in Africa, South America, wherever. Again, we've talked about this a lot. They felt they had the duty to bring all the results of their gains to these people. They had to evangelize them. Okay, a very Christian term in a very Christian way. So as we go on, you guys by now hopefully have read the articles of Mark Twain and John Stuart Mill. And Mark Twain wrote To the Person Sitting in Darkness, and John Stuart Mill in 1848 wrote On Colonies and Colonization. Hopefully you've looked at and done the moral audit chart for those two, trying to pull out the credits and debits, and one of them is very highly on the debit side and the other is very highly on the credit side. Now, Mark Twain argues against imperialism and does so in a very impassioned way, but also a very satirical way. The letter in the packet that I gave you at the end to the people of the Philippines is an excellent illustration at that point. Twain argues now that imperialism and holding an empire can't work because the people who are subjected to that rule are continually exploited. And if you continually exploit people, you're not doing what you said you're going to do, and inherently it's a very selfish act. Okay, and some of the quotes he uses in the letter, where you're better off because we were there, kind of a tough thing to justify because you have nothing to gauge that on. What would life be like if we weren't there? Who knows? And then a very paternalistic or very parental idea of, hey, we lied, we deceived you, we cheated, but you know what? It was for your own good, so too bad. Again, a Machiavellian idea of, hey, the end justifies the means. You guys are better off. You're better people because of us. And really, it takes a very much that attitude is taken from the perspective of the colonizers, not the colonized, or the empirical not the oppressed. And Twain really, really hammers that point home that imperialism and empire is not good, and he takes it from the perspective of the United States, not European nations. So Twain argues, heck yeah, America's imperial, and here's why it's bad. On the other hand, John Stuart Mill, and this is in 1848, so there's a distinct time difference between these two authors. Um, he argues that colonialism, empire, all that stuff is good because, hey, the benefits outweigh the cost. We're developing more countries, we're making more things. The people of both the colonized country and the colonizers are much better off. It's simple supply and demand. So if people did not want the products that were produced by taking the natural resources of colonized lands, they wouldn't buy them. But since people want to buy them and they want those products, we have to supply them, and that's all it is. Um, he also, you see this word savagery used a lot. Um, Stuart Mill argues that it's a cure. Colony empire is a cure for savagery. So basically, they're cleansing the world, and these people are just they have no sense of responsibility. So all they do is procreate, and if we can go in there and help them, basically Christianize them, they won't be savages, and they won't be overpopulating their area, so they won't have famines and all that stuff. Um, he talks about the enterprise in his article, and what Mill argues is that the world is better off because Europeans colonized. Again, whose perspective is he coming from? He's not talking to an African who's been colonized. He's talking from the perspective of a Briton who has colonized. Okay? All right, guys, we'll end up there and get another session up. Thank you.